English arrived at an opportune time, during the disintegration of the Mughal Empire. As the empire dissolved, wars for power between the Marathas, the Persians, and the Sikhs began. The English took advantage of the conflicts. They did not come as conquerors or invaders, they came as traders. Trade was their most important consideration. But fortifications and garrisons were somewhere necessary to attain security. In this way, power was gradually gained by the British East India Company. Until in 1757, Robert Clive gained control of India in the Battle of Plassey. In 1774, Warren Hastings became the Governor General of India, and under his reign, the foundation of civil service system was laid and system of court laws was organized. From 1858 to 1914, England timely established its control over the country. English governors were at the head of each province were responsible to the Governor General, who was appointed by the King of England, and were responsible to the Parliament. In 1877, Queen Victoria was declared the Empress of India.
The Revolt of 1857. The Indian Mutiny of 1857 to 59 was a widespread but unsuccessful rebellion against the rule of British East India Company. This revolt was also known as Sepoy Mutiny. There were many causes that led to the revolt of 1857, like the British policy of expansion, doctrine of lapse, etc. But the major cause of all was the incident of greased cartridges. In this incident, a rumor was spread that the Enfield rifles were greased with the fat of cows and pigs. Before loading the rifles, the sepoys had to bite off the paper on the cartridges, and both the Hindu community as well as the Muslim community refused to do so. Why did this revolt fail? This revolt failed due to many reasons. The first reason is limited uprising. It means that the smaller part of a country was affected by the revolt, whereas the larger part of a country was unaffected by it. The second major reason is no effective leadership. It means there was no single leader who led this revolt. And the third major reason is there were limited resources. It means that there were lesser number of resources to continue this revolt. That's why this revolt started fading after a year. The fourth major reason is there was no participation of middle class in this revolt.
The Indian independence movement was a series of historic events with the ultimate aim of ending the British rule in India. The movement spanned from 1857 to 1947, but only became nationalized upon Mahatma Gandhi's arrival from South Africa. The first Satyagraha movement was led by Mahatma Gandhi in the Champaran district of Bihar in 1917. Champaran district had tens of thousands of landless serfs. One of the suppressed indigo cultivators, Pandit Rajkumar Shukla, persuaded Gandhi to lead this movement. This led to a series of other Satyagraha movements such as the Kheda Satyagraha, Ahmedabad Mill Strike, and the Rowlatt Act Satyagraha. From 1920 to 1922, Gandhi started the non-cooperation movement. At the Kolkata session of the Congress in September 1920, Gandhi convinced other leaders of the need to start a non-cooperation movement in support of Khilafat as well as the dominion status for India. The non-cooperation movement was one of the most famous and crucial phases in the Indian freedom struggle against the British Raj. A complete boycott of government goods, schools, colleges, food, clothing, etc. was organized, and emphasis was laid on studying at national schools and use of khadi products. The movement enjoyed widespread popular support. However, Gandhi called off the movement because he was scared after the Chauri Chaura incident, which saw the death of 22 policemen at the hands of an angry mob.
Now, let's talk about the Dandi March. Popularly known as Salt March, was a 24-day non-violent movement started by Mahatma Gandhi. On March 12, 1930, The father of nation, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, embarked a historic salt march from Sabarmati Ashram in Gujarat's Ahmedabad to the village of Dandi in the state's coastal area to protest against the steep tax British levied on salt. Based on Gandhi's principle of non-violence or satyagraha, the march marked the inauguration of civil disobedience movement.
The civil disobedience movement was launched along with the Dandi March by Mahatma Gandhi in 1930. Violence and radical philosophy also revived in the 1930s that gave rise to armed rebellions. Bhagat Singh surrendered after one such bombing incident. Following a trial, Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, and Rajguru were hanged in 1931. The second civil disobedience movement stretched from December 1931 to April 1934. This led to varied forms of protests which recorded participation from women, peasants, and merchants. The British were aware of the uprisings and their impact, and hence martial law was imposed. When the Second World War started, Viceroy Linlithgow unilaterally declared India a belligerent on the side of Britain without consulting the elected Indian representatives. This led to Congress leaders resigning from provincial as well as local governments. The Quit India movement, also called the Bharat Chodo Andolan, commenced on 8 August 1942 in response to Gandhi's call for immediate self-rule by Indians and against sending Indians to World War II.
Independence arrived in India not only with multiplicities of heritages and legacies, but also with the pangs of partition causing dislocation of population on both the sides. The following year, under the leadership of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, all 565 princely states became a part of the Indian subcontinent. By 1950, the Constitution of India came into effect. India became a republic. By 1951, the first five-year plan was launched. By 1952, first general elections were held. Fast forwarding to today, India is the largest democracy in the world, with the highest number of official languages, world's largest postal network with world's only floating post office. Famous for its fascinating history of mathematical inventions, the birthplace of yoga, India is scaling new heights, and with such a youthful population, it can achieve so much more.